On-page SEO. One of the SEO processes you can fully control and improve your search engine rankings is on-page SEO. In this video, you'll learn the most powerful SEO techniques to increase your website's visibility in Google and other search engines. Let's get started with a definition of what is on-page SEO. In simple terms, on-page SEO is the process of optimizing individual web pages to rank higher in the search results and get more relevant traffic from search engines. You can do this by optimizing a number of elements related to the structure and content of a particular page. On-page SEO is a critical SEO process. Although Google is using hundreds of ranking factors, the relevancy of the content with the search queries is more important than ever. During the indexing and ranking process, search engines try to associate web pages with the search terms entered by users. Through on-page SEO, you can guide them as to which keywords you want your pages to rank for. As stated by Google, the most basic signal that information is relevant is when a web page contains the same keywords as your search query. Before we get into the specifics, you should understand that on-page SEO is a subset of SEO. Take a look at the diagram and notice how on-page SEO intercepts with technical and off-page SEO. All three processes have to work together for the best possible outcome. Technical SEO takes care of factors related to crawling and indexing. Off-page SEO deals with backlinks and website promotion, and on-page SEO with the page content. The best way to approach on-page SEO is to optimize all the important page elements. These are the page title, page URL, H1 tag, images, content, headings, internal links, external links, and comments. Besides on-page elements, you should also take into account other critical SEO factors like website speed, mobile friendliness, and website security. All three are known ranking factors and are used by Google during the ranking process. Page title optimization is one of the most important SEO ranking factors. The page title provides a big hint to users and search engines about the page content. It is shown in your search snippet in the search results, and it's also shown in your social media postings. When crafting your page titles, you should follow some simple rules. The first rule is that every page on your website should have a unique title. If two pages have the same title, this will confuse Google and hurt your rankings. The second rule is that your title should accurately describe the page content. Think of the title as a very short summary of the page that provides a strong indication to users on what the content is all about. Don't try to trick them by providing a title that is not supported by the content. You'll lose trust with your users, and it's a bad SEO practice. The third rule is that your titles should be brief and informative. The common guideline for the title length is between 50 to 60 characters. Most SEO experts and tools use this guideline because, on average, this is the number of characters shown in the Google search results. By providing a title that is less than 60 characters, it is likely that it will be displayed without breaks in the results, providing a better user experience and a higher click-through rate. Let's see how to optimize your titles for SEO. Titles should include your target keywords. This is extremely important for SEO, and it's not against any Google guidelines. On the contrary, it's a good SEO practice. Having keywords in the title helps search engines associate your page with relevant search queries and increases your chances of ranking for those keywords. When possible, add your target keywords closer to the beginning of your page titles. This helps search engines understand right from the start what keywords the page is targeting. You don't need to add your domain name in the title because it is appended automatically by search engines. You may consider adding your domain name for branding purposes as part of the homepage title only. Always remember to create titles for users and not search engines. You want users to find your titles interesting and click through to your website. Here are some proven tips supported by research to make your titles more attractive to users. Include numbers and power words like best, amazing, incredible, and top. Use negative words like no, without, and stop. Use brackets at the end of your titles. According to studies, titles with brackets have a 33% higher click-through rate than titles without brackets. A final rule that is crucial for your SEO is to differentiate your titles from what is already on Google's first page. Before finalizing your page titles, it's always a good practice to search Google for your target keywords and analyze the top results. Google likes to present different titles in the first 10 positions, so to increase your chances of appearing on the first page, you need to make sure that your chosen title is not exactly the same as any of the existing entries. URL optimization. URL optimization is a minor SEO factor but very easy to configure. Google is good at crawling all types of URL structures, even if they are quite complex, but spending the time to make your URLs as simple as possible is a good practice. There are a couple of reasons why you should optimize your URLs. First, they are shown in the search results above the page titles. Second, they provide users and search engines a clue on what the page is all about. As stated by Google, if your URL contains relevant words, this provides users and search engines with more information about the page before visiting. To optimize your page URLs, follow these simple guidelines. Keep your URLs short and to the point. Do not include dates or other unnecessary information. Make URLs an exact match of the keywords you want the page to rank for. Let's review a couple of real examples to understand how to apply the above rules in practice. The title of a post is How to Become a Digital Marketing Consultant. By default, your CMS will create a URL that contains all words that make up the title separated by dashes. This is not bad, but it's too long to remember and contains words that are not really needed. A better version is to include only the targeted keywords in the URL. In this case, it's Digital Marketing Consultant. Now, the URL is shorter, easier to remember, and an exact match of the target keyword. Another example. The title of the post is, What is the H1 tag and why it is important for SEO? By default, your CMS will create this URL. But a better version is this. This tells both users and crawlers that the page is about the H1 tag. That's it. You don't have to spend more time on URL optimization than needed. Don't forget that if you decide to change any of your existing URLs, you need to set up the relevant 301 redirects in your CMS so that you don't lose your rankings by creating dead links. This is not good for your SEO, and it's bad for the user experience. H1 tag optimization. The H1 tag is usually used for the page title, and it is the first heading visible on a page. When viewed in HTML code, its value is enclosed in H1 tags. To make the text stand out, the H1 tag is usually formatted differently than the rest of the page content. The easiest way to understand the use of the H1 tag is to imagine that you are writing an outline of a large document. The main title of your document will be your H1, your main points the H2, and subpoints the H3. Before we proceed, and to avoid any confusion, the H1 tag should not be confused with the title tag. They are two different page elements. The title tag is shown in the search engine result page, but the H1 tag does not. The title tag is not shown visually on a page, but it is part of the page header, and it is also shown in the browser title. The H1 tag is shown to users while browsing a page. Look at the following image to understand the difference between the two. In the majority of cases, the page title and H1 tag have the same value because CMS, like WordPress, are configured this way. This is perfectly fine. While you can change them, Google recommends that they should be identical. This means that in terms of optimizing the value of the H1 tag, there is nothing more to do. What you should do is follow these simple guidelines related to the style and placement of the H1 tag. The first is to make sure that your H1 tag is visible to users. Many website themes have the H1 tag in the HTML of the page, but it's hidden to users. This is not a good SEO practice. Check that your theme outputs the H1 tag correctly and that is visible on the page. The easiest way to do this is to view the HTML source of a page and search for H1. What you see enclosed in H1 tags should also be visible on the page. The second rule is to style your H1 tag differently than the rest of the content. Make your H1 stand out using bigger letters than the rest of the text and heading. The third rule is to use headings in a hierarchical manner. I mentioned before that you should approach headings the same way as writing an outline for a book or long-form document. What is important for SEO is to have your tags in the correct order to make the job of crawlers easier. Last but not least, best SEO practices indicate that there should be only one H1 tag per page. This is because it makes more sense, and this is what you should aim for. In cases, though, that you end up having multiple H1 tags on a page, this is not the end of the world. If you can correct the situation, then do it. Otherwise, leave it as it is. That's it. By following these simple tactics, your H1 tags will be fully optimized for SEO. Image SEO. Images bring an article to life and also contribute to your website's SEO. Over the years, several studies have shown that web pages with at least one image tend to rank higher than pages with no images. Let's look at the most important SEO benefits from using images in your content. First and foremost, they make your content more interesting, and this means visitors are likely to actually read your article. It is not a surprise that content with relevant images get 94% more views than content without. Your readers are more likely to share a page with images in social media, and the shared post has more chances of getting more attention than plain text posts. It's another easy way to make your SEO stronger by giving search engines the right signals on what your content is about through image alt text. Your images can rank higher on Google image search and get more traffic to your website. Now, let's see how to best optimize your images for search engines. The name of the image is the first thing to optimize, even before uploading the image to your website. Image file names should be informative and accurately describe the image. When you purchase an image or take a photo using your phone, they usually have names that do not make any sense. Instead, you should rename your image to a more meaningful name that is representative of the image. The next thing to look at is the image file size. As a general rule of thumb, the smaller the image file is, the better. Large images take longer to load, and this can negatively impact the user experience, especially for mobile users. A good practice is to use image compression tools like Image Optim, which can reduce the size of an image without losing quality. For example, look at these two images. They look identical to the eye, but the image on the right is 42% smaller than the other image. Next, you should pay special attention to the image alt text. Alt text, also known as alternative text or alt attribute, is a text that accurately describes an image. It is added to the IMG tag in the HTML of a page. The alt text is the most important element to configure for SEO purposes because it helps search engine crawlers understand the subject matter of the image. Alt text can help your images rank on Google Image Search, but it can also help your pages rank higher in Google Web Search. The alt text is not shown when a page is viewed in the browser, but it becomes visible when an image cannot be loaded. Search engine crawlers read the alt text value, and screen readers use it to describe the image to users who cannot see it. Now, let's see how to optimize your alt text. The main reason for having an alt text in the first place is to have a textual description of an image. An accurate description is one that helps users and search engines understand what an image is about without looking at the image. A good way to ensure that your description is accurate is to write it thinking about how to best describe the image to users who cannot see it. Keep the length of the alt text below 125 characters, but avoid using a single word. No need to include the words images or picture. Search engine crawlers know that this is an image, so don't repeat that in the alt text. Use the alt text to talk about the image. You should add an alt text to all your images. That includes your logo, images used on buttons, and images used as backgrounds. Remember, the main reason for having an alt text is for better accessibility, so keep that in mind. When it comes to keyword usage, avoid filling the alt text with keywords, but do make sure to include your target keyword or related keywords. As stated by Google, when choosing alt text, focus on creating useful, information-rich content that uses keywords appropriately and is in context of the content of the page. A nice tip to follow is to use images that are relevant to your content so you can have alt text that is descriptive and keyword-rich. Here is an example of a good alt text for the image on the right. Some other tips to take into account when using images in your content are: provide an image caption and title. Besides the alt text, search engines can use the image title and caption to better understand the subject matter of your image, so it is necessary to provide them with these values. Optimize image placement. You can position your images anywhere you want in the page, but if you want a particular image to be taken into account by search engines, an important image of your content, maybe it's a custom image you did that is unique, original, and useful, then you need to add it closer to the top with the relevant alt text, image title, and caption. Don't add important text inside an image. Avoid having text in an image that is important for users to read. Embedded text is hard to read by search engines and users. To describe an image to users, use the caption, and to search engines, use the alt text. Add image schema on your page. Schemas help search engines understand the content of a page better. In the case of images, you can implement the image schema by adding the relevant structured data markup on your pages. Add Open Graph meta tags. Open Graph is a protocol introduced by Facebook. The concept is similar to schema markup, where you use tags to help crawlers identify the important parts of your content and their meaning. Open Graph tags allow you to specify which image Facebook and other social networks will use when users click the share or like buttons from your website. Use an image sitemap. For image SEO purposes, you can further enrich your sitemap to provide information about your images or use a dedicated image sitemap. Last but not least, avoid having a page full of images and no text. Always use text to accompany your images. Having no text on a page is a bad SEO practice. Content SEO. Content SEO is a subset of on-page SEO, and it's the process that will help you optimize your content so that it can potentially rank higher in search engines and attract more traffic. Before we continue, it's necessary to emphasize that the #1 ranking factor is content quality. For a web page to rank high on Google, the content has to be relevant to the user query and satisfy the search intent. If these two conditions are not met, it's impossible to rank, with or without SEO. SEO can only help good content rise to the surface. Now, let's see some very powerful techniques for making your content better for users and friendlier to search engines. The first is to make sure that your content satisfies the search intent. Before publishing any type of content on your website, you need to understand what type of content users want to see for a given search query. In general, the search intent can be categorized into 4 types: informational, navigational, transactional, and commercial. The easiest way to find out what type of content to create is to take advantage of Google, because they already did a great job in understanding what users like for different searches. So, the first step is to go to Google and search for your target keywords. Navigate and carefully examine the top 10 results. Take note of things like the type of content, level of detail, how they use images and video, and page design. Your goal is to use this information to build better content. Better in this context means a number of things, like more thorough and informative, easier to read, and possibly presenting a different view of the subject that is not already covered by the existing content. The second technique is to mention your main keyword at the beginning of your content. Everybody knows that your main keyword should appear in your title and H1 heading, but what is equally important is to mention your keyword once or twice in the first couple of paragraphs. The third technique is to use subheadings to break content into smaller sections. This makes the content easier to scan by search engines and users. The fourth technique is to use variations of your main keyword in the subheadings and content. When you are targeting a specific keyword, you don't just repeat that over and over again, but you should use variations of that keyword in your content. Next, you should pay special attention to the content formatting. Make your content easy to read. Don't just throw text on a page, but apply formatting styles to make reading easier, especially for users who like to skim read. Use short paragraphs. Use bold and italics to highlight parts of the content that matter. Use a font that is easy to read and large enough on all devices. Add enough white spacing between your paragraphs. Also, don't forget that content can have many forms and is not necessarily text. When adding other non-text elements in your content, like images and videos, make sure that they are also optimized. The next technique is to make your content thorough and informative. Although word count is not a Google ranking factor, several studies indicate that long-form content performs better in search and social media networks. While this is true, it does not mean that you should write thousands of words for the sake of getting to a word limit. The quality of the content is always more important than quantity. If what you write is what users want, it will attract shares and links, and eventually rank high in the SERPs, even if there are other posts that are longer in length. Google guidelines on content state that content should be factually accurate, clearly written, and comprehensive. Featured snippets. Now, let's see another technique that will help you rank your content on the first position of Google. This is known in SEO as featured snippet optimization. We'll start with the most popular type, which is optimizing your how-to and list posts. Google loves to show lists in its search results. Search for any query that is related to how-to or list type of post, and notice how the Google featured snippet is adapted to show lists. Here's an example. What is nice about this is that there is a way to get your list to show as a featured snippet and dramatically increase your click-through rate. Follow these steps. Make sure that you place your list high in your post. It doesn't have to be at the very top, but try not to bury the list in the content. Add an optimized H2 or H3 heading as the list title. Make it specific. If the list is about SEO tips, then name the list Best SEO Tips or something related, but keep it short and to the point. Make sure that each list item is an H2 or H3. Keep the list item titles short and specific. Use UL and LI tags for the list items. Don't use tables or paragraphs, but use the UL HTML tag to help Google crawlers understand that it's a list. When you follow the above steps, and provided that your page already appears on the first page of Google for a specific query, you'll have more chances of appearing on the first position of the results as a featured snippet. If you want to take it a step further, make sure that you create named sections within your list by adding the ID attribute to a list item like this. This makes the particular named section accessible directly through the post URL, and Google picks that up and enriches the presentation of your snippet with post site links as shown in the example. Another very easy technique is to optimize your content for the direct answers box. When you type a question in Google, you'll notice that sometimes it gives you a direct answer with a link to learn more. To increase your chances of getting picked up, you need to target question-based keywords. Summarize the answer of a question or query in one paragraph. Place the paragraph at the beginning of the content and above the fold. Look at the example on the right. In my post, I targeted the question, "Is SEO hard to learn?" and I gave a direct answer in the opening paragraph. In the rest of the content, I have explained the reasoning. A good way to find questions to answer is to look at the People Also Ask section of the search results. Questions listed there are great candidates for the direct answers box. Last but not least, let's look at rich snippets. Rich snippets are an enhanced version of a normal search snippet that usually includes graphical elements like images, review stars, and other visual enhancements. Search for any recipe on Google and you'll see rich snippets in action. The process of getting a rich snippet is a bit technical, and you may need the help of a developer, but it's definitely worth it because websites appearing as rich snippets get more clicks and traffic. In summary, the steps are: Step 1. Choose the right schema. There are a number of Google-supported schemas covering a range of content types, including articles, recipes, reviews, local businesses, and many more. Step 2. Write your script. For each schema type, Google provides guidelines as to what to include in your script. Study the guidelines, write your structured data markup, and add it to your website. Step 3. Test your implementation. Use Google's Rich Snippet Test tool to test that there are no errors in your script. Step 4. Use Google Search Console reports to monitor the performance of your rich snippets. Internal links. A web page can have two types of links. The first type is what we call external links, and these are links pointing to pages outside the boundaries of the website. The second type is links that point to pages in the same domain. These are called internal links. Let's see why using internal links is important. First, internal links help in making the website navigation easier. As stated by Bing, internal links are useful for creating a view of how your website pages are related and also help users find related content. Second, it's a great way to associate pages of the same site together, creating your own small web. Third, you can use internal links to distribute the page rank of a page around the website. Fourth, they help search engines discover the important pages of your website. When it comes to SEO and internal linking, it is important to follow these best practices. The first is that not all internal links are equal. In order for an internal link to have real value, it should be in the body of the page or post. Internal links in the sidebar, footer, or outside the body of the page do not provide much value. Yes, you can still use them to aid user navigation, but in terms of SEO, they are not very important. The second is that while it is common practice to link from new pages to old pages, for best results, you should do the opposite. In other words, from time to time, you should review your internal linking and add links from old pages to point to newly published pages. The third is to use internal links to pass page rank from your strong pages to other pages on your website. For example, if a page on your website has a lot of backlinks, Then edit that page and add internal links to other related pages on your site. This will make your linking pages stronger. The fourth is that you can safely use keywords in the anchor text for internal links. Unlike external links, there is no Google penalty for doing so. The fifth is to make sure that you don't have any broken internal links, as this is bad for SEO. The sixth is to link related pages together, not pages that have no related content for the sake of internal linking. Some other tips to consider that are in accordance with best SEO practices are: make sure that the pages you want to rank higher in search engines have a greater number of internal links. Use text content for your internal links. Adding internal links to images is not useful for search engines or users. You can use the Internal Links report under the section Links in Google Search Console tools to find out the status of your internal link building. Finally, if you're looking for inspiration, look at any Wikipedia document to see how they use internal links to make their content discoverable. That's about it. To summarize, you should consider internal links as a way to build your own web. Don't forget that you can always go back and update an existing page to add a couple of internal links to help users and search engines discover more relevant content from your site. External links. Now let's look at external links and how you can use them for your benefit. As mentioned before, an external link is a link pointing to a page outside your website, i.e., on a different domain. For the website that links out, it's an external link, and for the website that receives the link, it's a backlink. We know that backlinks are important for SEO, but what about external links? External links to related pages helps Google figure out your page's topic. It also shows Google that your page is a hub for quality info. Adding external links to your content will not directly help you with SEO. It's not a ranking factor, but it can help you indirectly. You can use external links to link out to other websites, and then email them and let them know about it. Webmasters will be pleased to know that you have linked to them, and this is a great way to start a conversation. You can gradually build on this relationship and eventually get backlinks to your website, as many webmasters will be more likely to return the favor. Let's quickly review the best practices to follow when adding external links to your content. Link out only when it provides value to the reader. Link only to websites you trust. Link only to related websites that have unique and original content. Use the nofollow tag for external links going out to websites you don't fully trust. Comments. I know that a lot of people don't have comments enabled on their blog, either because they are afraid of spam or they believe it does not offer any SEO value, but it does. Here is a relevant tweet from a Google employee. Besides the advice from Google, it is proven by research that pages with valid and useful comments rank higher than pages with no comments. Comments on the page are one of the signals used by Google to understand how popular a page is. If a page has a lot of comments, this is a good indication that people like the content, and that's why there is interaction. Once you enable comments on your website, make sure that you reply to each and every comment, and that you don't publish any spam or low-quality comments that don't add value to the content or conversation. Comments are a great way to interact with your users and build your community. Users who comment on your content are more likely to share and link to your pages.